Hello students, today we will see what are correlation functions. So in layman's terms, correlation means nothing but finding out the similarity between two different signals. Okay, so there are two types of correlations that we have. One is autocorrelation and the other one is cross correlation. Autocorrelation is nothing but finding out the similarity of a signal with itself. That is, it might be the signal with the time shifted version of itself. Okay, and cross correlation means the finding out the similarity in between two different signals. Okay, so first we will see what is autocorrelation function, that is in short we call it as an ACF. So autocorrelation function finds out the similarity of a signal with itself, with a time shifted version of itself. Okay, so for us the signal is nothing but we are talking about random processes over here. So we will be finding out correlation functions, we will be talking about correlation functions with respect to random processes. Okay, so autocorrelation function of a random process capital X of t is the expectation of the product of two random variables capital X of t1 and capital X of t2, which are obtained by observing the same process, that is x of t, at two different times, that is at t1 and t2 respectively. Okay, so we are observing the same process, we are finding out the similarity of that particular process itself, but at two different times for two random variables of the same random process. Alright, so it is given by, it is denoted as capital Rx of t1 comma t2, t1 and t2 being the two time instances at which we are finding out. Okay, it is given by expectation of x of t1 multiplied with x of t2. Okay, so in terms of integrals, expectation value will be given as integral, double integral going from minus infinity to infinity, x1 into x2, and then the probability density function, that is joint probability density function, which is f of xt1 xt2 of x1 comma x2 dx1 dx2. Alright, so this one will give us the autocorrelation, that is what is the similarity of that particular random process, wherein if we take two random variables of the same random process at two instances, that is at t1 and t2. Alright, so here that joint PDF is the second order PDF of that particular process. Now for a stationary process, we have a special property that Rx of t1 comma t2 is same as Rx of t2 minus t1. That is the time difference between t2 and t1. Alright, so we have some properties of this autocorrelation function. The first property states that in terms of the time shift, okay, tau, if we define that in terms of a time shifted version of itself, that is tau, autocorrelation function is expressed as, if we take same time instant t, okay, instead of t1 and t2, what we are taking is t and some time shifted version t plus tau. Alright, so Rx of tau, here we are not calling it as t1 comma t2, we are calling it as the time shift, that is Rx of tau is expectation of x of t and x of t plus tau. So in this equation 4, if we put tau is equal to 0, that is the signal time shifted is equal to 0, that is signal with itself, exact signal with itself, then we call it as Rx of 0, because tau is 0, is nothing but equal to expectation of x of t multiplied with x of t, that is x square of t. So E of x square, we have seen that it gives us the mean square value. So E of x square of t will give us nothing but the mean square value of a random process. Okay, so we find out the autocorrelation function and we find out the value at time shift is equal to 0, that is the maximum value Rx at 0. We will be finding out the mean square value of that random process. Okay, the second property is that the ACF, that is autocorrelation function, is an even function, that is autocorrelation Rx at tau is same as Rx at minus tau. Whatever is the time shift in the positive direction, same time shift if we take in the negative, that is minus tau, we get the exact same value. So it becomes an even function. And the third thing that we have is the autocorrelation will have its maximum value at tau is equal to 0. That is no time shift. Then we have the maximum similarity, a similarity of a signal, if we can generalize it in terms of signal. Similarity of a signal with itself will be exactly when the signal is not shifting, there is no time shift, that is tau is equal to 0. So similarly for random process or random variables, autocorrelation function will have its maximum value at tau is equal to 0, and that particular value is nothing but the mean square value. So Rx at tau, if we take modulus of that, okay, it's going to be less than any other value of tau. It is going to be less than Rx, less than or equal to Rx at 0. That is Rx at 0 is going to be the maximum value. Alright, the second type of correlation that we have is cross correlation. Okay, this gives the similarity between two different signals. For us, it is two different random processes. So cross correlation function of two random processes, that is x of t and y of t, it will be given as rx or r of xy of t1 comma t2. So it is given by expectation of x at t1 multiplied with y at t2, that is x of t1 dot y t2. Okay, so if t1 is equal to t and tau is equal to t2 minus t1, then we have, that is if the tau is the time shift which is there between t1 and tau. Okay, so then we have rx y t comma t plus tau, that is some time t and a time shifted version of itself. Then it's given by e expectation of x of t dot, that is multiplied by y of t plus tau. So this gives the similarity between two different random processes. The third function that we have is autocovariance function. Okay, so autocovariance of a stationary random process x of t is denoted by Cx. Okay, so autocorrelation or cross correlation, we used to denote them by R. Okay, here the autocovariance, since this is not correlation, it's covariance, so we denote it by Cx. So Cx of t1 comma t2 is given by expectation of x of t1 minus the mean, that is mx, multiplied with x of t2 minus the same mean. So if this function we expand, then expectation of xt1 multiplied with xt2 minus mx into xt1 minus mx into x of t2 plus mx square, if we expand that particular term. Okay, so expectations, if we split, then expectation of xt1 multiplied with xt2 minus mx into expectation of xt1 minus mx into expectation of x of t2 plus mx square. Now expectation of x of t1 and x of t2, expectation of x is nothing but the mean. Okay, so again expectation of x t1 and expectation of x t2, we substitute it as mean, that is mx. So we will be getting rx of that expectation of x t1 into x t2 is nothing but the correlation function. So that is rx of t1 comma t2, the autocorrelation function. Okay, so rx of t1 comma t2 minus mx into mx minus mx into mx plus mx square. So final answer we get the autocovariance as nothing but autocorrelation minus the mean the whole square. Okay, that is rx of t1 comma t2 minus mx the whole square. The third thing that we will see is the type of probability density function that is most normally used. Now a large number of processes, they naturally follow Gaussian distribution or normal distribution. In mathematics we used to call it as normal distribution. Here we will be calling it as Gaussian distribution. Okay, so large number of processes usually naturally they follow the Gaussian distribution, and even if they don't exactly follow that, it gives the best fit, that is Gaussian distribution gives the best model approximation for all the processes. So that's why most of the processes can be easily defined by Gaussian distribution or normal distribution. Okay, so Gaussian random variable capital X, if we take its mean as mx and variance as sigma x square, then the probability density function of that Gaussian distribution is given by fx of x is equal to 1 upon under the root 2 pi sigma x e raised to minus 1 upon 2 sigma x square into x minus mx the whole square. So in mathematical terms we denote it like this, mx being the mean and variance as sigma x square. Alright, so it is defined by that the bell shaped curve which is shown. Alright, you are already well versed with this in mathematics. We used to call it as normal distribution. Alright, the next concept that we have is the central limit theorem. In short we can call it as CLT. Okay, now central limit theorem is a very fundamental and a very key concept in the probability theory. It says that the statistical and the probabilistic methods that work for Gaussian distribution or normal distribution can be applied to many other problems which deal with different types of distributions. Okay, now usually in the field of statistics, we have to collect a lot of amount of data, but it is highly impossible to collect the data of the entire population when the population is large. Okay, so instead of doing for the data for the entire population, what we can do is we can gather a subset of the data from a certain amount of population and use the statistics of that particular sample to draw conclusions about the entire population. Okay, so in short, if we have central limit theorem, the statement is that for large sample sizes, the sampling distribution of means will approximate to normal distribution or Gaussian distribution, even if the population distribution is not normal and it follows some other kind of distribution. Okay, so in our terms we will define it in terms of the random variables. So it's associated with probability density function of several independent continuous random variables. Okay, we cannot apply it to discrete random variables. So we will split the entire statement into three parts. Okay, the first part is that the probability density function of n number of independent continuous random variables tends to approach a Gaussian sort of probability density function if the number of n is very large. That is, as number of n increases, okay, whatever the type of shape, that is whatever probability density function shape it had, if n is large, then it automatically tends to approach a Gaussian curve, that is Gaussian probability density function or normal curve. Okay, the second thing is that the mean of the Gaussian probability density function, which is obtained by addition of all the n number of random variables, is equal to sum of the individual means of these n random variables. Okay, so the same thing goes for the variance, that is variance of sum of n number of random variables is equal to sum of the individual variances of these n random variables. Okay, so in mathematical terms we will define the central limit theorem. If we have two independent continuous random variables denoted by x and y, okay, and we are summing it up to get another random variable, let's say z, okay, that is z is equal to x plus y, then central limit theorem mathematically it states that fz of z, that is probability density function, fz of z is equal to integral going from minus infinity to plus infinity fx of x multiplied with fy of z minus x dx. So we can easily see that this looks similar to our convolution integral. Okay, so it shows that if two independent random variables are added, then the resultant probability density function is nothing but it's equal to the convolution of the probability density functions of the two individual random variables. So the same integral equation we can define it in terms of convolution as fz of z